biggest lesson. You should care deeply about the problem you're solving, but you should be detached from your solution to that problem. Because like when you are detached from your solution, it helps you to pivot quickly when you learn new things. It helps you to take feedback more gracefully.
Hey, Goziem, welcome behind the ship. I'm excited to have you here today. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for having me here. I'm excited as well.
When I looked at your like LinkedIn, actually, I think you told me that your background is in um as a medical laboratory scientist. How what were the things about your experience and your journey that sort of led to your transition into a product designer?
So I guess the simplest way to answer it is that I did not feel fulfilled like in my work, which was weird actually whenever I explained it to people because people felt like, oh, like it's healthcare, so like you're helping to like save people's lives, you should be happy about it. But I didn't feel fulfilled like at all, and every day sort of felt repetitive. And it was like I would go into a week and I know exactly how every day of that week is going to go because like the work was repetitive. Every day was sort of the same. And I was just really looking for something else that could like excite me, challenge me, help me to learn more and to like apply the things that I was learning. And to be honest, when I made the decision to switch before I even discovered that it was product design I was going to be doing. Like when I started doing product design, I did not think that I would be doing it for as long as I have now. But what I just wanted to do was try as many things as possible, see the thing that excited me the most, and then stick with it. And that's how I basically discovered product design.
Yeah, so what are the different things you tried?
Oh, I learned graphics. I've learned a lot of things. I learned graphics design. I learned graphics design at first. I think that was the closest thing that I learned before I eventually did like product design. But for a while, because I like writing, that's something that I used to do like as a hobby before. So I
Mm,
also thought, okay, maybe I could do something related to writing.
mm,
So yeah, I think I wrote for a bit. I did not have any like I did not have any like particular career path for writing. I just knew that okay, if I'm trying things that excite me, I like to write, so maybe I should write for a
mm,
bit. And I think
mm,
it was like my dad is always like the type of person that he likes when you're learning different things. Like sometimes when we're home
mm.
for like days, you don't just sit at home doing nothing like for the whole duration of
Yeah.
and learn. So like I learned so many computer programs from like a really like young age, like how to use.
Mm.
I learned Excel so many times. Like at the point I even got tired of going to learn Excel.
Learning the
Like it
Excel.
was one of those
Yeah.
things where like I was home and I had like a summer break and he was like, go and learn graphics design. And then I went to learn graphics design. I was doing that
Like
for a while,
specifically graphic design, he said that.
specifically graphics design. And I went up and did that for a while. And then as part of that, I also learned digital marketing because I felt like
Mm,
that would be a good place for me to like apply like my writing. I had a
mm.
blog for a while that eventually just went obsolete.
You
But
should share. You should share that with the people. They want to
like
see
the,
it.
the link doesn't even exist right now, but that's something that like I used to write for a while. But yeah, I eventually
Yeah.
just landed on product design.
Yeah. You had spoken about like some of the events that led you to basically be at GoLemon,
Yeah.
that set you up for your job at GoLemon.
Yeah.
You started to speak about Paystack and some of the things that you did with them before joining GoLemon. So I wanted you to touch on that.
Okay. So basically, I think it was 2022. I had been applying for jobs for a while and
Hmm.
I wasn't really getting any like feedback. I was getting a lot of like rejections. And then finally, I landed this interview with a particular company that I was really like excited about. I did the interview. I was excited about the interview. I was hoping that I was going to get like good news. And then I got a rejection. And it was
Damn.
really sad. It was very
Yeah.
sad and very heartbreaking. But like a month after I got the rejection, one of the people on the panel who had interviewed me just reached out to me on LinkedIn and she was like, "Oh hi, I'm one of the people who like interviewed you. I spoke to my friend who works at Paystack and they are going to be running this program that I think that you would be like a really good fit for. Is this something you're
Mm.
interested in?" And I was like, "Of course, why would I not be interested in that?" So I sent him my CV, I sent him my portfolio, and I think like a month later I got like a response from the recruiting team to start the process. And I
Mm.
eventually went through the process. I got selected because like it was like a training program of some sorts that they were doing for like a few months. So I was one of the
Mm,
two that were selected for the program.
mm,
And after that program, and that's when I eventually met like the people who like founded GoLemon. So after
mm.
that program like wrapped up, the CEO of GoLemon right now reached out to me to ask if I would be interested in coming on board at GoLemon, and yeah, that's how I got there, basically.
Yeah. The I guess it just goes to show like what a good how far a good impression can go in just like any stage or just whatever you're doing. So yeah, shout out to you for sure. So you own product design at GoLemon.
Mm.
What how do you approach design? Given as GoLemon is since in such a hard market, international giants like Jumia, both who they've tried to do grocery delivery and they've sort of exited the market. So, what is it like just owning design here?
To be fair, I like when I try to think about how I would have approached it if like those players were still in the market, I don't feel like I would have approached it differently. I
Mm-hmm,
think that like it's a hard problem to solve, which is evidenced by the fact that the giants have left the market, and that
mm-hmm,
the thing that could help us survive is trust. And because like the mobile app is like the first thing that people contact when they are thinking of like Golemon, it's like
mm,
really important that we start to build that trust from customers experience on the app. And so
mm-hmm,
what that means for me basically is that I have to be very intentional about like making the app reliable and like very usable. I have to be very thoughtful and basically there's also like a lot of humility that goes into building it. So thoughtfulness in the sense that like there's genuinely a lot of thought that goes to that is put into every feature that is released. And I like
mm-hmm,
at every point that somebody interacts with something on the app, we want people to know that, or we want the user to feel like somebody has thought about how they would experience it and all of that. And I also said humility because like we acknowledge that it's a hard problem to solve, and we acknowledge that
mm-hmm,
we're going to like get some things wrong, especially that it is early days. Like we are less than a year now since we launched, but like there's like a real commitment to like learning from those mistakes, taking the
mm-hmm,
feedback and solving for the problems that we discover early, and just like growing and building a better experience as we go along the way.
mm-hmm. Makes sense. What are the sort of top um feedback loops? Like when I say feedback loops, how do you guys learn about some of the decisions that you've made as a design team, on the design team, as a product in general, as a business in general? What are the ways that you guys learn about a customer problem and then sort of solve that problem and close the loop?
Okay. I think the first thing is that we are all like users, so we catch
Mm-hmm,
our own errors like a lot of the time. Like people can just like internal Golemon users can just come on Slack and just like drop issues that they notice as they use the app. There's also internal testing that we do, especially for features that are not as obvious on the app. That like somebody would open up the app and that's the first thing that they would see. Like for
mm-hmm,
example, when we're currently piloting next day delivery because currently we have like a 2-day delivery timeline, but we're
mm-hmm,
piloting next day delivery in some areas. And when we initially went live with it, for a period before we announced it, there were people like within the company that were testing and were able to like catch some of the bugs and some of the most obvious problems and fix them before like it eventually went live to other people to use.
mm-hmm,
There is also like user testing that we do. Early on, I used to just mostly test with like my friends and my family. I will just pull somebody into a call and just like show like Figma screens and prototypes and try and get quick feedback. But
mm-hmm,
recently, we also started to do, especially for features that we feel sort of anxious about. It's better to like test that early and just get quality feedback that can help you to shape it before you eventually release it to like the whole world. So we for those sort of features, we actually like test with I like to test with people that I don't know at all so that nobody feels like they have like some sort of
bias. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
exactly. So
mm-hmm.
the customer support team helps us sometimes to recruit people and we just like jump on the call, we show prototypes, we get feedback and we're able to make those changes before like those features, even in some cases before they even get into like before development even starts on any of them. Then
Just
what
to butt in here, you talk about recruitment. How does that work? How do you know you're speaking to the right people?
Um, to be honest, a lot of it is very because of like the nature of the app of GoLemon itself. It is like an app that everybody like basically uses. Like obviously there's different types of people that use it, but it's like a general problem that we are solving that anybody like knows how to solve. So typically we just like reach out to customer support like, oh, we're trying to talk to two, three people. Could you help us like recruit people who like you think would be open to us? Like suggest people since they are the ones that have like most of the close contact with these users. Would you help us
Mm,
like with people that we could talk to? And they send us like a bunch of people. We jump on calls. So it's
mm,
not, and maybe like going into the future will be more specific. But for right now, we feel like some of the things that we are building are general enough that we can get feedback from basically anybody who interacts with the app.
mm, makes sense. Do you want to go back to what you were speaking about? Or do you even remember?
I feel like I lost my train of thought. I feel like I
Sorry,
lost my
I won't button again. I won't button again.
train.
But yeah, could you speak to me about like the hardest problem you've solved at GoMoney, or just the team has solved, and why do you find that why do you think that is hard?
For me, it would have to be like the internal tools that we've built because apart from like the consumer app, there's also like the internal tools that we build to handle like day-to-day operations and stuff like that. And
Mm,
it's complex because when you're building for like the consumer app, like I said, there's different types of people that you're building for, but the end goal is sort of clear and obvious because you're trying to get people to place their orders smoothly. That is the big goal for like the
mm-hmm,
consumer app. But when you're building for internal tools and you're building for different teams, like there are different teams that are involved like in the fulfillment process. There's the sourcing team, there's the team that does like the packing, there's the team that does quality assurance, there's logistics.
mm,
Like there's so many different parts, and each of these different teams and these different parts have their own unique workflows, their own unique pain points. They have like their
mm,
own tools that they use like outside of the internal tools because as you can imagine because we are like new and we're a startup we cannot build all of those tools at once, so we still have
mm-hmm,
to rely on like external tools to help us manage some things. And when you're building an internal tool it means that all of those external tools have to also communicate with those internal tools,
mm,
and because you're building for different people that have different workflows it means that, and it's like an operations heavy business. There are so many things that are happening sort of like at the same time. It means that there are more
mm-hmm,
scenarios that there are more opportunities for things to go wrong, which means that there are more scenarios that you have to account for. There are more edge cases that you have to build in. You also have to account for the fact that there are manual processes that you cannot completely automate. So you have to figure out how can this still work with those manual processes. And you also have to you also have to figure out how does this affect because everything is like linked together, right? Like
mm-hmm,
when somebody does something in this part because like it is a flow, like there are different departments but everything is like step by step and is a flow, something that this person
connected.
does
Mm-hmm,
here, exactly how does
mm-hmm,
it affect what this person does here, something that the person is doing in this internal tool, how does it affect the other internal tool, how does it affect the consumer's experience. There's just like
mm,
a lot of things that you have to like account for, and like I feel like you have to get like really good at like systems thinking to be able to like properly build the internal tool. But crazy enough, like I feel like that has also been like the most like it's very complex and it can be difficult, and sometimes it requires like a lot of conversations with all of the different teams that you're working with. But I feel like that
yeah,
has been, if I had to pick, that would probably be like the most fulfilling part of like the work that I have done so far. But yeah.
yeah. I don't know how close you are to like the growth team, or how involved you are in just designing things on that side, but I imagine that there are there might be a few that you're involved in, so I would love to hear just how what are the different like engagement levels that the product team has sort of built out and designed,
Product.
and
Okay.
like the product design team.
Okay.
So when I say growth levels, I mean specific product experiences that are designed for engagement, for growth, things like that. Are there things that the GoLemon team has started doing, or is this something that is still in the pipeline?
So to be fair, a lot of the things that we have, like we have seen them produce a lot of growths, like, and I can give you like an example of some of the features.
Mm-hmm.
But
Please
like
do.
in terms of engagement, we have there are some things that we have in the pipeline that we believe would be like really exciting and really engaging for users. But so far,
Mm-hmm.
we have mostly been focused on functional things. So like
Mm-hmm.
growth comes like as a result of those functional things, because like as people are using it and they're excited about it, they're talking about it on social media, and we are seeing people sign up because of the things that people are talking about on social media. One of them is shopping instructions. So shopping instructions, I think, is like shopping instructions is a feature that we have on the GoLemon app where you basically can let us know how you want your item to be processed. Like maybe you're buying meat, you want it to be chopped or you want it to be shredded. You can let us know. And like there's also like another part of shopping instructions where you can just tell us your preference. So it's not like a processing instruction, but it's just like, don't give me soft plantain. I don't want soft plantain. Give me hard
That kind
plantain.
of thing.
Right?
Yeah.
That kind
Uh,
of thing. So like people, we have seen like shopping instructions is something that gets people really excited, and like a lot of times, I think even today or yesterday, I saw somebody still talk about it. Like it's one of like the most exciting parts of like the app for the person. And there was like a period where I think somebody tweeted something about a shopping instruction,
I
and
was about to say something like that just now.
what's
I think
that?
those are one of like GoLemon's viral moments on Twitter is shopping instruction.
Exactly. And like it was
Exactly.
built, it wasn't built as like, oh, we want to use this as like an engagement tool. It was built as like,
Mm-hmm.
we recognize that in people's real life shopping experience, they are able to do some of these things. Like when you go to buy meat, you can tell the people that you want it to be cut or something like that. You're
Mm-hmm.
able to
Mm-hmm.
do that in real life. And because we are automating the experience, or we don't want to take away some of the benefits of that real life shopping experience just because we're trying to automate the experience. And so that's where that was done from, like, let's give people like the benefits that they get from shopping in person. And that means like let's allow people to tell us how they want their items. So yeah, that's one of the things. I think
The
another, yeah, okay.
Sorry,
Sorry.
before you go to the second point, again, you're going to go to the second point after I say this. So remember, before
Yeah.
you go to the second point, it's very interesting how something as simple as a shopping instruction can so much elevate product experience and even drive acquisition.
Yeah.
Because when you think about it, shopping instruction is not an innovation. People have delivery
Exactly.
instruction, things like that. I think one of the very interesting thing is that it's almost like you make a promise and you deliver on it. So
Mm,
when people say, "Oh, I don't want my plantain soft," and in a scenario when you shop for them and come back and give them and you give them soft plantain, it's like, okay, this thing doesn't work. It's just there for fancy. So it's
yeah.
just that delivering on the promise that makes it like super exceptional and like almost feels like,
Yeah.
wow, this thing is amazing.
Yeah.
And it's
Exactly.
just the little things that just move the needle and make people just advocates of the product.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are about to go to the second bit.
Yeah, I was saying that another thing that has been interesting has been list collaboration. That one is basically like a feature that allows people to partner with their roommates, or sorry, their housemates, their housekeepers, whoever, like on their shopping list. And I think this was the first feature that I designed at GoLemon. And I remember that I had been having like a conversation with Yinka, and we had been like thinking through like the experience and what we wanted to build. And I think after the call, like maybe an hour or so, he sends me screenshots that like a user had sent him an email like saying, I have an idea, what if we do this? And it was just like, it was like a
Just at the
validation.
point. Exactly. We just
Exactly.
reinforced the whole thing.
Exactly.
I
It was
love
like a
when things like that
validation of,
happen.
I know, right? I know. And it happens quite a lot, to be very
Quite
honest.
you'll be fair. You'll be surprised.
Yeah, it happens a lot. So
And
yeah,
I
like,
think just to add there, a lot of the times the features that you finally end up building is not something that you just discovered out of the blues. It's I think most of the time it's something that a lot of people have been saying it, or like there have been opportunities to discover those things, but you just
Mm.
haven't really just set your eyes on them or just giving it the thought that it requires. I see
Yeah.
that it happens like today, like something interesting at work, but I don't think I'll get into that. But yeah, just that.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that makes sense. And that's like one of the ways that we actually, like, apart from thinking about, okay, what are the things that people do in real life that we want to replicate on the app, we also
Mm,
get, like, for instance, there's like a channel that we have that's like fun shower thoughts, and it's basically just like anybody, like in the company, you have like a random idea in your head when you're doing something, like some a feature that we can add that would make the app more exciting. You just come and dump it here, and there's like something that's coming like later in the year that I'm really excited about, that was born from like that fun shower thoughts, just somebody just randomly thinking
mm,
about something. And also like family, friends, like that's one of the ways that like we discover like the things that
mm,
we're supposed to like build and work on. And even just like,
mm,
because we also do a lot of social monitoring, because we're trying to hear what people are talking about, the things that they're complaining about, so we can fix it. And not even just only related to the app experience, but just like the general GoLemon experience. Like if somebody is
mm.
complaining about like, a part of the process repeatedly, then it's a sign that we need to start
Something
figuring
is
out
wrong.
the way that the
Mm-hmm.
product can help
Mm,
like solve that problem for the user. So yeah, like just to like buttress what you were saying, like hearing what people are
mm.
saying and everything, like, is a very good way to discover the features that you eventually build. Um,
Yeah. You talk about customer listening, right? Is this something that is a manual process or is it automated?
for now, it's manual. It's manual. I think there
Mm-hmm.
have been talks to like automate the process, but like for now,
Mm-hmm.
it's still like it's still manual.
So anybody can just be seeing something on GoLemon and just share like, oh, someone said this. So anybody basically jumps on it.
Yeah,
Or is there
exactly.
like a dedicated team? Okay.
It's not
Makes
like
sense.
I mean, primarily like the marketing team would you would say the marketing team owns it, but it's basically open for like anybody. Like you see something, you share. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
this is what people are saying and stuff like that.
Okay, so what is your biggest lesson joining the company, being in the company?
My biggest lesson. I think I have like a lot of lessons that I have learned.
Okay, I
Just
guess top four lessons.
okay. The first one is definitely going to be that you should care deeply about the problem you're solving, but you should be detached from your solution to that problem. Because like
Mm,
when you are detached from your solution, it helps you to pivot quickly when you learn new things. It helps you to take feedback more gracefully, because like your first solution is not probably not going to be your best solution, and it's going to take like some rounds of like working on it and like incorporating feedback for you to get to what is that best solution. If you're very tied to that first thing that you did, then like it just makes the rest of the process just like a lot harder for you and for everybody who is also involved in it. The second
mm-hmm,
thing really just to care about the people that you're solving a problem with, basically. um I think one of like our values at GoLemon is kindness, practicing kindness. So it's like in the way that you're giving feedback to people, even like show kindness, because like we're like in a fast-paced business, and it's not just fast-paced
mm-hmm,
because of technology, it's
mm-hmm.
operations. So, like sometimes it can be like sometimes everybody can be on edge, and like it just takes like a
Yeah, true.
ability to
Like
and
everything is breaking. Like people are
exactly,
complaining. It's like always. It's like a lot of the times you're always on edge if you don't
exactly,
if you don't take
exactly.
it.
So it's like you have to just be very intentional about if it's that like things are going wrong outside, let's see be that there's peace and there's calm inside your house. And I think that people are
Mm-hmm.
able to do just like their best work when like they feel like they're in an environment that is safe. So just like be kind and just assume best intent when you are relating with anybody that you're
Mm,
basically.
yeah. I think a lot of people need to talk about this, to be honest, because a lot of the times when people talk about company values, I don't think that, especially like on this side of the world, I don't want to generalize, but I find that a lot of the times empathy and kindness is not something that comes up as much.
Mm,
Um, Even if it does, it feels like not eye service, but it feels like almost like a buzzword in the company because there is no real commitment to
mm.
deliver on that value.
Yeah.
That's what I'll
Yeah.
say. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, you're
sorry to
right.
cut you short.
It's fine. I think that you're right. But like I think it is one of the things that I have really liked about just like working here. The fact that it's not just something that is said, it's something that as much
That
as
is.
possible try to
Mm-hmm.
practice. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that I think that is really important is just communicating clearly, early and often. Like I think that because again, because of like the way that the business is, there's so many things that are moving around at the same time. There are so many things that can go wrong if you don't communicate clearly. And if you don't, yeah, basically, like if you don't communicate clearly with the people that you're working with. And also
Mm-hmm.
communicating early for me, like as a product designer, is also important because you want to share things like on time with your team, because when you share things on time, you're giving people enough time to share their feedback, give their ideas, and like surface like any constraints that might like exist in the thing that you're trying to build, and you want to know those constraints on time before you go very far ahead in what you're doing, and then you have to come back to start again. And then communicating often, I think that um I try to err on the side of over communication, and so far it has
Oh.
not with me. I try to over communicate because again, like it's a startup, there's a lot of things that people have to do, right? Like don't add to somebody's job description. Like don't make babysitting you become part of somebody's like job description. Communicate, like if there's something that you were supposed to do, if it's like you're not going to meet the timeline, communicate on time. Like let people
Hmm.
know what is happening like in as real time as possible, just so that everybody can be on the same page and we can all just like move forward with the work that we're doing. And like the
Hmm.
last thing, set up for, so like the last thing will probably be take ownership of like what you're doing, because you're working like in a startup. Like it's very important that people who are working at this stage where there's a lot of problems to solve, there's not a lot of people that are solving the
Lots of
problem.
ambiguity. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. You need to properly take ownership of the thing that you're working on. A lot of things can very quickly just go like the wrong way if there's no
Go
way,
left.
or if people are trying to like pass things around. Like there has to be real ownership like in what you're doing. When you're starting something, make sure you're seeing it through to the end and make sure that it is like completed well. So yeah, if I had to, those would be the top four
To
things
pick.
that
These are really strong answers. I think a lot of people will find value that you shared this. Thank you so much.
I think.
Um, I think this is the end. I like to think that this is the end.
Oh,
But I'm still waiting for your most surprising thing working at GoLemon. I didn't forget. But yeah,
yeah.
thank you so much for coming here. I wanted to keep this short intentionally, because I find that a lot of my conversations go over like an hour. I'm trying to keep this like as short as possible.
Mm.
So think of it as a almost like a lightning talk, but
Okay.
I'm asking the questions. But yeah,
No,
thanks so much, Goziem. It's nice to have you behind the ship.
thank
Enjoy the
you.
rest of your evening. Bye.